Okay, so it's another wonderful evening, Monday evening. Pretoria, the weather has gotten so much better. Thank God. I love winter. My wife can tell you that. But I think that last cold front was not from God. I would swear it was really manufactured by the enemy, if you ask me. But outside of that, welcome to another episode of Live Chats on Monday, the second season. If you didn't know, now you know. We meet here every Monday at 6:30, and we have interesting conversations with interesting people who are doing interesting things in this very interesting world of ours. And don't worry, it won't take much of your time, just 30 minutes and the show is over. But during that time, of course, we have a quality engagement that will really hopefully change your perception about life and other just topics in general. So today we have a special guest. Her name is Maydon Monareng. How are you, Dr. Maydon?
Hi, Rodolphe. I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm great. Thank you. Good to have you, Maydon. And for those who are obviously wondering, who is this woman who is so bright on our screens? She's a medical doctor. She's been a doctor now for quite a bit, and one of the top performers in her high school back in the day, of course, who has found herself to be a semi-finalist in the Mrs. Africa, Universe Africa's pageant, is it? Mrs. Universe Africa. Yeah, she's doing the things. And very full of life, very funny. Welcome, Miss Maydon, again to the show. That's pretty much who you are from my perspective anyway.
Thank you, Randall. Thanks for having me.
Right, so tell us, Maydon. I think just getting to serious stuff, COVID has really just been a havoc-wreaking disease, a pandemic, if you will, for the past year and a half. I think when they called the first lockdown, 21 days, we just thought, man, 21 days we'll be out of it and life will get back to normal. It's almost a year and a half, almost 2 years later, and life doesn't look like it's going to get back to normal anytime soon. What is this COVID? Is it really, like I thought back in the day, just a upgraded level of flu? Or for those people who really don't know and are really just wondering, and thinking all these conspiracies that are being bombarded, please, in layman's terms, what is COVID-19, Dr. Monareng?
Okay, COVID is real. It's a real virus. It's a virus belonging to the coronavirus. Okay, let me speak layman terms. It's a real virus. It is a virus that is that likes the upper respiratory tract and the lower respiratory tract areas of our body. So basically, it presents as a flu-like symptoms. So it's a family of flu, but it's not flu, but it's real. So it's definitely not conspiracy. It's real. So do you want to know the whole physiology of what it is? Or should I keep it simple?
No. If we give you that chance, you're gonna tell us the genetic makeups and how it affects, So no, we're fine. I think that's generally enough. Thank you very much. I think for it really, in this post-truth world that we live in, there's so many versions and so many what can I say, perspectives, and you never really know what's the real thing unless, of course, we speak to the professionals themselves. So I just thought, as a starting point, let's at least just define and make this thing understandable to those who are really watching so they know. But I think this thing really came out, well, at least from a media perspective anyway. We saw things happening in Wuhan, in China, and the closed lockdowns happening there. And until, of course, some South African guy on a private jet found himself coming from Italy, bringing this thing. And to date, we have almost 3 million infections, cases that have taken place in this country. Do you think, from a medical profession perspective, just also from a policy perspective in terms of our government, that leg that we had between the first case being identified, the thing going viral in Wuhan, and Mr. Italiano arriving in KZN, did we prepare ourselves enough, you think? Were you, as a doctor, prepared?
Honestly, no, I don't think we were prepared because initially we didn't think it would spread to such a massive thing because we heard of this virus. We thought, okay, it's far-fetched, it's over there, they are experiencing the problems, but then we never thought it would come home so soon. There's this meme that was going around there. It was a guy at a spaceship. They were on the moon, and this monster was killing everybody else, but this specific person was hiding, and somehow they made a sound. specific sound. And then coronavirus found out where South Africa is. So that was very, very funny. But I think if we had taken it seriously from the word go, we would have put measures in place to try and prevent the spread from exacerbating the way it did. Because this man from Italy, it wasn't just only him, because think about the people who he was in the plane with. We know it's those few people that were infected. We never thought it would get out of hand, but if those people had been in quarantine for some time, not given a chance to go home and interact with family or their employees and just be quarantined for some time, perhaps it could have been controlled. But then we took it very lightly because chances are these people work at, I mean, they go home, they've got workers. These workers are in contact with, were in contact with these people, and then they go home to their families take it to their friends, and their friends go to their friends. So this thing really cascaded very fast. So yes, had we recognized and seen the virulence of where the word go, we would have been able to control it before it got out of hand. I think that's my opinion about that. But otherwise, somehow I feel like it was inevitably going to spread because this thing, but there are aerosols. Some droplets are in the air. So some drop down, some go up. The bigger droplets, they fall to the ground closer to you. The smaller ones, they're the ones that are more airborne. So aerosols, sorry. And inevitably somebody was going to get it. Even though you had quarantine and kept those people in isolation for some time, I think it was bound to happen. I think.
Yeah, you're right, because I think for those countries that even closed down their borders altogether, didn't allow anybody to travel. We see that in Australia, we see that especially in New Zealand, which I think was very, very progressive in its response to this COVID pandemic. But ultimately, you know, like you're saying, there were cases, of course, probably better managed than we did, maybe because, like you're saying, we didn't really take it that seriously. But ultimately, yeah, in the end of the day, you know, something, what goes around comes around, as it were. And I think initially, when the really thing, when it came through, and I remember there was a group of students that came from Cuba or something, and they were sent to a hotel in Polokwane, and people were protesting there, Limpopo. Hey, why are you sending them to Limpopo? You want to kill all the Limpopoans and stuff. And there was a whole, I think we took it on another level. We almost feared this thing as much as we fear Ebola. It was in that league, you know, of shucks, this thing can really take us out. Yeah. And looking at the first lockdown and now cross over to the entire year and a half, I think that there was a lockdown just about a month ago, and the country literally blue ticked that thing, like, hey, what is this president saying? So we've literally let our guard down over time. You know, we're not as scared of this thing as we were initially when the thing broke out. And do you think by any chance that this has at all contributed to the rapid spread that we're seeing now in the current waves that are being projected? Or is it just something that was naturally going to happen anyway?
Almost definitely, I think it did contribute because the first time this happened, the lockdown happened, we were all scared, we were frightened, it was so quiet on the road. I remember, I am a healthcare worker, so I was really I never experienced lockdown really because I was always out. But when you go out to work and you drive on the street, it was literally quiet. People were, they were out for you and seeing them on the road. God knows where they were quarantined, but it was quiet. So as time went by, and people started getting really frustrated, they got over it. Like, can't I figure this thing? Like, it's been so long. We want to resume normality. We want to resume our normal life. This thing is really decreasing our quality of life. So when they eased the restrictions and people started getting out there, they were like, okay, this is what life is about. We cannot continue with this quarantine life because it's just inhumane because under lockdown. So yes, it definitely did play a huge role in the transmission and the spread of COVID virus to date because people really have let go. They've just given up. They're just over it. Some people are on this trip that if I die, I die. If I live, I live. But some are still very scared of it. But there's just a few of them in the country that are so frightened of it. They're so worried about it. So I think, I don't know if I'm speaking ahead of your questions, but just to touch on the restrictions that were brought about by the president, which was the alcohol ban. I think that was a good news by the president, because not only did it increase the burden of healthcare workers in hospitals, but also people were more in control of themselves, of their thoughts, their being, because when people drink, they get really, they don't worry about what happens. They're just free. So the fact that the alcohol ban was able to help people to remain sober for a longer period of time, then that allowed us to be conscious of following the measures that will prevent the spread and keep us safe. So, it was a good move, but unfortunately, we are where we are, and people are just over it.
Hey, I remember that's alcohol and tobacco ban was very, very controversial. And I think it's good to hear that, of course, you on the medical side, medical profession side of things, saw the difference in how actually it helped, like you're saying, to reduce the caseload on your guys. And so you can concentrate on just fighting this one thing. But of course, a lot of people who like their booze every now and again surely thought, we're being imprisoned here, we're being turned into Christians. But I'm trying to think now, now that you've touched on that, I think just give us a snapshot, if you can, of the first wave and the second waves of how things looked, behind the scenes, in the wards, in the specific COVID wards. I know even field hospitals were built. And for most of us who had people, catch COVID and get hospitalized, we never really could get the chance to visit them. So, hospitals were really literally on lockdown. So we don't know, what happened. And all we can just think is imagine. Now you were there. Firstly, right there in the front line, just give us a brief view of how things looked like during that time when really things got hectic.
Okay, I liken the scenario to a movie. Just imagine a war movie like, I haven't watched Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings. So I've noticed that among soldiers, there are different types or different classes of soldiers. So they have different functions, even though they're all soldiers. So they're all in the battle, they're all frontline, but you get those soldiers who are in front, who've got the shield, and then at the back, you've got those who have the spears, and then at the back, you've got those with the horses. So each soldier has had a different function in the war. So why I'm mentioning this is just to give you insight of what it looked like in especially public sector, because I can only speak because I work from a public point of view, because I work in a public sector. So being a frontline worker means you're really in the front line. Like, I feel that we were in the district hospitals, the GPs, the primary health clinics, we were really in the front line, in that when people present to hospital with signs and symptoms, we are the first point of contact with those patients. So we know that hospitals have different levels of care. So you take your primary, your secondary, and your tertiary. Primary being our district hospitals, our primary level care hospitals and clinics. So you get your symptoms. What do? You go to clinic. Clinic escalates, brings you to district hospital. District hospital has to stabilize you. That's us now. Now you've gone in, this patient can't breathe, this patient needs oxygen, this patient needs steroids, this patient is deteriorating. Now this patient has to be intubated. Intubating means basically stick a pipe down the throat so that you can help the patient breathe, because they're getting tired of breathing by themselves. They're working extra, the labor of breathing is just increased and the effort of breathing increased. So you just want to ease that burden by helping them ventilate by the machine. That's if the oxygen, the topical oxygen zones, not topical, nasal and the mask don't work. So my point is, here we are intubating this patient. Now this patient is breathing into your face. So as you try to access that patient's trachea, the lung just says hello, and then it comes to your face. So in the beginning, our PPE was really not up to point, because as we speak, you literally have one suit or set of PPE for the whole week. We do not have enough to change every single day. So the same thing you wore yesterday, you probably have to preserve it so that tomorrow you can actually wear it again. The only thing you can change every day are masks, because those are in abundance, not really, but you can change those. But in terms of your clothing, so here you are intubating a patient who is very sick. You have to refer them to a higher level hospital. So now these aerosols are on your clothes, they're on your face, they're on your gloves, they're on your PPE, and then you go home, you don your gloves, wash your hands, you go home, you come back tomorrow, you put on the same thing. So first of all, you are the main spreader of the virus, okay? So just giving you insight of how bad it was is that now the tertiary level hospitals, they have to continue management where the specialists come in and they just intervene where they have to intervene, but we were the people who actually stabilized the patients. So the GPs are also very predisposed to the coronavirus, because before they send the patient to us, they have to screen the patient, they have to get in contact with the patient, and some of them don't wear PPE. I mean, you're not going to wear PPE for all your patients. You don't know who's got COVID and who doesn't. The fact that you're referring the patient to the next level hospital or the next center, you don't know. So you need to really either wear your full PPE the whole day, every day, all day of your life, or you just need to have like a spazza shop type of setting where they're over there and you're over here and you're like, okay, what do you have? You're coughing, okay, here's a letter, just go to the hospital. So yes, coming back to that, I know there was a mouthful. So here we are exposed to this coronavirus. The PPE is not sufficient. And now patients, our staff members are getting sick. Now in the beginning, we had this quarantine of 10 days. So if you test positive for COVID, you go home and isolate. So here you are isolating, which means that we are short-staffed. So now the burden of patients that was there initially is much more, because now you want to train one doctor to 20 patients, or even more, because now people are sick, people are ill, people get tired, people have to go on leave. That is a skeleton of staff in the hospital. So what people don't realize is that you come to the hospital, you want to test for COVID, right? So you're waiting a long queue because you want to be seen. And you know, to see a patient is not just a quick thing where, okay, you're fine. You need to examine the patient. You need to put your stethoscope in the patient's chest. You need to look at how the patient is breathing, look at how the effort of breathing is, the nose, the mouth, the respiratory rate. You need to thoroughly examine the patient. So people outside get impatient and they are on some, okay, this place is so slow, they're not helping us. They don't realize that on top of being short-staffed, you have to see the patient thoroughly. So they just complain and be like, there's no help in this hospital. They just turn us away. And we turn them away at a point where, because nowadays we have this triage system that the government has implemented, that you don't just test for COVID, you have to qualify in that you need to score a certain score in order to say, okay, we are going to test you for COVID. Otherwise, we just send you back home and say, go in quarantine. So, yeah, I don't know, I'm just touching around everywhere, but the whole point is that it was really hectic in hospital. We were scared. We were scared for our families, because you change into your normal clothes. We don't even wear normal clothes anymore. Our mainstream clothes is scrubs, because what's the point of wearing clothes and then you're going to contaminate them? So the easiest thing to wear is scrubs. So you wear your scrubs, you go to work, come back, it's easy to wash, it's easy to iron, you're just changing that every day. Also the hairstyles that people keep, you know, when you like your funny hairstyles, you can't really do that anymore, because your hairstyles need to be able to be put inside a cap. Let's call it a PPE cap, a theater cap. So if you have big hair, you can't wear that. You have to wear 2 caps, and now you are just depleting the resources. So yeah, I'm just going more into detail, more than just the patient coming to the hospital. I'm just giving you insight of what goes on with the healthcare worker from the point of contact to the point of going home. Because now you also want to protect your family. You literally just want to keep away from it. I mean, I have a nephew that always wants to eat when I come from work. And at some point, I just had to stop him and say, listen, I'm post-call, I know you miss me, but just stop there. Don't come towards me because I don't want to get sick because of, I know my exposure at work. And then you talk about parents. They have comorbidities and you can't visit your parents. You just video call, you just call them and you really want to see them and you really can't subject them to the exposures that you have. You can't expose them to what you have contracted at work. So it really becomes a biopsychosocial paradigm shift because everything was just affected, not just the working dynamics. I don't know if I've really gone everywhere, but your question, yeah.
No, definitely. You did it so much justice because I think that really paints a picture of how difficult this time must have been. Like you say, we kind of really have to imagine a movie, and it sounds like a movie where, you know, Fukushima or Hiroshima or something just boom, and, you know, people just. So I think, sure, it's so much to take in, and I'm trying to think now already, like you're talking about just the workload perspective. But as you add on that, the family perspective, the separation between, you know, people that love each other, the separation between parent and child, and etc. And someone has just posted a very pertinent question here: that what's the mental state of health now of professionals, you know, medical health professionals? Because how are you dealing with the exhaustion, obviously, that you've just spoken about now, and especially the emotions? So that's just not in terms of the work and your social aspect of things, but add to that the fact that you have seen so many people die. Like it's just a concoction of just, you know, I don't know, an attack on you guys as professionals. And someone just then goes on to add part B of that. What's the impact, if at all, has that had on patients? So you see the exhaustion, the emotions, you know, the deaths, and of course, if at all, the impact on patients. That's quite a loaded question for you right there, just in response to what you just said there.
Okay, I'm going to answer this honestly. I've spoken to a couple of colleagues, and this also includes myself. Two words that stick out when I think of the mental state. We are apathetic and we are anhedonic. So the stuff that you used to love before and enjoy, you're just not interested in that anymore. Your life has basically become very passive. You go to work, you see your patient, you're exhausted, you come home, you sleep. You go home, you know, it's even better for those people who come home to somebody. But those colleagues who stay alone, who have nobody to talk to, who have nothing to do, you come home and you really go into a state of depression. It's really anhedonia and being apathetic are signs of depression. So it's really, really bad because now you love medicine. I love medicine. I really enjoy it. But I find myself getting frustrated nowadays because, first of all, the workload is so much and I don't get to do the stuff I used to enjoy because life has just changed completely. So you get the healthcare workers now, they're always snapping. They're always frustrated. And you know this person is this kind of person, but they're not who they are now. You can tell that it's a season because it's not just one healthcare worker. It's a lot of them. Now, the impact it has on patients is that they're really not getting the patient care that they need to get. Because now, I spoke about the queues. It's no longer about seeing a patient completely and thoroughly. Now I'm not pushing queues. If you have 70 patients to see and you're short-staffed, you're not really seeing them the way you should by really giving them the time and, you know, putting your stethoscope to their chest and hearing what's happening and listening to every heartbeat. Now it's like, okay, I see you. This is the main issue. Okay, next patient. It's really decreasing the quality of care that we give to our patients. It's really bad. When it comes to the deaths that we see in hospitals, I think even before COVID came, we experience a lot of deaths. And for lack of a better word, I'd say we are kind of, it doesn't really phase us anymore. I mean, when I'm on call, guaranteed I have to certify one or two people. You know, you have to touch the patient. It's like, it's not the worst that we've seen, but the number of people who are dying per night has really escalated. especially from the time COVID started to now. But then it wasn't a shocker to see people dying. It's just a shocker to see how many people are dying. And you know what's even more funny about this, for lack of a better word, is that, you know, when you're a healthcare worker and you're treating a patient, you know, you see patients die and you're not attached to them. You don't have that attachment. Yes, you do care about your patient and you can breast care, but it's not the same as if it was somebody that you have a relationship with and you're bonded with, and somebody that you know. So it's like, okay, you don't really have that depression that lingers after the patient has passed away. But now, when it comes to family members that come to the hospital, or when a certain virus or illness hits your family member, no matter how small it is, no matter how confident you can be in managing that comorbidity or that illness, when it comes home, it's not the same. It's as if you just lose it. You know, you just feel like, okay, you know, life has just changed. My father just contracted this illness and wow, life is not the same anymore. So that actually gives you it makes you more sensitive to patients and their family members, because now for them to come and they always ask them to say, okay, what's happening to our family member? Instead of getting annoyed, understand where they're coming from, to say, you know, if I were in their shoes, I'd want this. I mean, we've been on the other side. I have been on the other side where I'm with my family and their patients, and I have to get information from the next healthcare worker. And I realize how frustrating it is for us to not have information. It's even worse in the government setting, where you don't have much time to go explain to everybody, unlike in the private sector. But that's important. You know, you're at a point where the family relies on you, the patient relies on you. Patients trust you. What is that you're telling them, because they believe that you've gone to school, you've studied, you've got the knowledge, and you know what you're talking about. So it's important to hear it from the horse's mouth, because some of them want to hear something from the patient, from the doctor, but the doctor's not there. You're always hearing reports from the nursing staff who are always present, but sometimes you want more information from the doctor, and the doctor is never there. Okay, doctor is coming back at this time or this time, but it's kind of good. It's bad. It has affected our emotions to a point where we become a bit inhumane, we become like zombies. Because now you're basically like, okay, I'm going to work these patients or home. It's really it's bad. But then my coping mechanism is that I have told myself that I need to be intentional about not falling into a depressive state. You know, I know that I am a spiritual being that lives in a body after a soul, and I'm very intentional about, you know what, God, you sent me out there. Yes, this is a career that I love, but you sent me out there. And when I go into those places and there's no PPE, to the best of my ability, I'll try and protect myself. Mudimu gave us the talent to actually don those PPE so that you can protect yourself and your family, and trust God and Lord, whatever's not there, go and I can protect them. But nowadays, you get healthcare workers that be like, you know, we're so over this situation that they actually go into the COVID ward with no PPE whatsoever. And I'd be like, how, sister? And then, and I don't feel like, yeah, fun. I'm like, oh, do not test God. Bible is come tester. If you feel that you can go in there and not catch anything, then really you're not being very wise about it. So yes, healthcare workers have become very passive. We've lost some level of passion for our careers because we're just so frustrated. We are tired. We're tired.
Yeah, I can definitely understand, Shame, and it must really be a tough time. I think, as we're saying, we're not seeing really at the end of this tunnel and how it's going to look like. But I think from the last stats I saw, almost 10 million South Africans have been vaccinated now, adults anyway, which accounts for almost 30%, I think 33% of the adult population anyway. That which is very much prone to this particular disease. Has that translated to a reduction in admissions, reduction perhaps in infections that you've actually visibly noticed from the first and second waves and what's happening now?
Okay, yes, what I've noticed is that On national statistics, it looks like yes, there has been a reduction. However, I have a serious problem when it comes to this, and I just want to voice it honestly. We work in small, so-called tracker towns, where they are very small, and I feel like the government focuses more on bigger hospitals, your barrels, your CVCOs, let's equip those hospitals. They forget about our little hospitals in the periphery. So why I'm saying this is that the vaccination program was rolled out, but in our community, it's not that effective. People don't know where to go. As healthcare workers, we are sorted because our occupational nurse calls us, come get your vaccination, and then go. And then you get the community that come and ask, okay, doctor, one parent came and asked me, doctor, I want vaccination, where can I get it? And I honestly did not know. So I told him, I'm going to go and find out from occupational health nurse. And when I went to her, she said, I don't know, I should look at the ward, which ward they belong to in the community. I'm like, this man probably doesn't even know how to use WhatsApp. And now they have to go and Google which ward they belong to. And I feel it's unfair because yes, it's out there, people don't have the information. They don't know where to go. Now, recently, I see they are erecting tents outside hospitals, a lot of district hospitals, where people go there. But how do people know that they should be going there? A friend of mine, a colleague from Nels Grade, actually said in their community, they actually announced there's a car that passes by a speaker, and they're like, yeah, that's today, so you basically, that's their mode of communicating where the vaccination is happening. But people who don't, like in the farms, we work with a lot of farm communities. They don't get that information coming to them. They know it's happening, but they just don't know it. So in terms of seeing a reduction of COVID cases because of the vaccination where I work, no. I just feel like people stop coming to the hospital because they just tired and or they believe, okay, we're gonna recover. Those that do come to the hospital, they come, some get healed, recover, some go to tertiary level hospitals. Unfortunately, majority die. So in my case, I have not seen much of a reduction where I work, which is in the periphery, but on the national scale, there is a reduction because I think a lot of the people accounted for are those in the tertiary level care hospitals and healthcare places.
Right, and I think the last question that I have for you today, pretty much before we kind of close out. Now, you went to school, 6-7 years of hard labor in terms of your studies. You were going through those thick books of Krebs cycles and all these things that you had to study. Do you think, of all the modular content that you got at varsity, that you were prepared, well, yes, from an academic perspective, probably, but mentally and psychologically for this pandemic that has really hit us? Is there something perhaps that you would recommend that even the academic system should try and add to what's currently being offered now in institutions to prepare, future doctors for something like this?
No, I don't think anybody was prepared for this season, but in terms of academic preparation, one professor once said, you study not to pass the exam, but you study so that when you find yourself in a situation between life and death of a patient, you're the only one that can save the patient. So what I'm trying to say is, academically, you need to really understand what is it that you are learning, understand what you're studying, understand anatomy, understand physiology, understand pathophysiology. That when the disease like this comes up, you at least have an approach. I know I'm dealing with the respiratory tract, so I know how to approach it. I know what is it that I need to look for. I know what is it that I need to focus on to help you do better or to get cured from this illness. Another thing is, yes, you got the knowledge in med school, but it's very important that you keep updating your knowledge. Go for ATLS, your ACLS, go for trainings that actually train you pertaining to the current things that are happening. There's COVID training, there's online training courses that you can undergo. You can go to, there are many courses. My father always tells me that Maydon, you need to master your own language. So it's not about government, I'm waiting for you to send me on a course. No, I need to take the initiative and say, listen, I want to be a doctor. I want to be able to save my patients' lives where I can. So, you know, it's actually, I always told myself that when I leave work, even though resources might be insufficient or the patient didn't live, I come home with a heart of peace, knowing I tried my best to help that patient with the knowledge I got and with the integrity that I maintain to say, well, no one's looking, but I'm going to try and treat this patient the way I know best how God is looking. And yeah, it's basically just remembering what you studied, improve yourself, keep up to date with what's happening, and try your best to save the patient. So yeah, academic work, but keep on researching.
Right, so we've seen it all. I think the past year and a half, we've seen the bed shortages, we've seen the oxygen shortages, PPE not being sufficient. You know, now we're talking about vaccine hesitancy, we're talking about vaccine discrimination and vaccine apartheid, and yeah. There's so many things in the past 2 years that we can add into the dictionary that we didn't know or think about prior to this time. And now we're facing a potentially third wave, fourth, projected by the Department of Health, I think for around about Christmas time day or just before that. What's your final word, Maydon? If you were to just encourage us or exhort us or, you know, tell us something that we really need to do prior to this wave hitting, you know, from what you've seen, what do you want to say to us as a closing statement, really?
Well, let me address one question that I get from a lot of people. They ask me, doctor, should I vaccinate? And it's your choice. Meaning, in this school, we are taught medical ethics. Meaning, my job as a doctor is to give you the information, evidence-based medicine. I'm not here to enforce that on you. I'm here to give you information so that you can make an informed decision whether it's personal autonomy, what you want upon your body, whether you want it or not, as long as I've given you the evidence-based information on whether to make a choice or not. So in terms of what can I tell you is that make a decision. You know, if you want answers to something, don't just fish around on social media. Go to proper medical sites that give you that information. Like I can answer a couple of what I think would be frequently asked questions. First one is that, should I get vaccinated? I don't know, it's your choice. I'll give you the information. Studies have shown that vaccines are effective and they are safe. So if you want to take it, take it. If not, then well, it's your choice. But few things get it so we can achieve herd immunity. People ask me, I'm immunocompromised. Should I get vaccinated? Well, the more immunocompromised people need more vaccination because the immune system is very low. But if you are currently ill, rather hold it off until you at least reach the point where you are there and then you can take the vaccination. Another question, should I vaccinate if I don't know if I've got COVID? Should I test first if I've got COVID? A lot of people and teaching say, okay, find out if you have COVID because there's going to be like a viral overload. Even though it's not a live attenuated virus, but they say rather know your whether you have COVID or not before you go and get vaccinated. Okay, so not everybody will know that because you don't test everybody, but if you have symptoms and signs, just rather wait a bit before you get vaccinated. And then, how do I deal with the side effects of the COVID vaccine? Some people experience it, some don't. I am vaccinated. I had no symptoms whatsoever. A colleague who vaccinated the same time as me was sick for like a week. And well, those symptoms are over. But then it goes according to your body. But you get some people that are so scared that they feel that just because the next person got symptoms, then I'm probably going to get symptoms. Oh, don't tell us and these are, keep it off, we'll be better tomorrow and see how you are. So my thing is, my final point to patients is get information, make your own decision. Don't say they said I must vaccinate or they said I must do this. Make your own decision, discern for yourself. And get proper information. Ask me, ask your doctor, ask your healthcare worker, ask your nurses, they know. Don't just stay as well on information that's just circulating on social media. And last thing, take care of yourself. Please, masks has been proven to decrease the spread. So wear your mask, wash your hands. A couple of masks get it. Just wash your hands before you put it on. Wash your hands when you take it off. Keep your distance. If you don't have to go anywhere, stay at home. If you're an extrovert like me, you just want to kick it, like just go, but just keep your distance from people. And what do you say? That's all I can say. This COVID virus is real. We see it, we deal with it, and we're just encouraging you to be alert and just protect yourself and protect your family.
Thank you very much for that crash course. Really, I think we've got a better insight of, at least the mental health of where you guys stand and what you guys have seen and gone through over the past period. Hopefully, of course, things get better. Yeah, people must just go and vaccinate. Yeah, there's 666 conspiracies, and yeah, just go get that thing. All right. Otherwise, thank you very much, Maydon. I think having you was very, very great and gave us really an insight into the happenings, behind the scenes for the medical profession. So I think for myself and everybody else that's tuned in and watched in, it's a very, very much thank you to Dr. Maydon Monareng.
Thank you.
All right, to everybody else that's watching, I think we'll catch you then next time, same place for another interesting conversation with an interesting individual again. But I think for tonight, it is adios. We'll see you this time next week. Goodbye.